Why did you bring HIV into our home, David? I trusted you, but you chose to bring this deadly virus into our home and infect me. I will never forgive you, Lisa yelled as she slapped her husband. David wept as he recalled what the doctor said to him at the hospital. Watch till the end if you value your life. There's a great lesson in this story. When Lisa asked her husband how he got HIV, she never expected the answer to shatter their marriage. But what if everything she believed was a lie? What if love is tested, not by betrayal, but by fear? This story will break your heart and put it back together again. How did you get it? Lisa asked, her voice trembling, her eyes sharp and wide with disbelief. She stood by the doorway of their bedroom, arms folded tightly across her chest, as though bracing herself from a wind that had already knocked the air out of her lungs. David didn't answer immediately. He sat on the edge of the bed, his head bowed, both hands clutching the edge of the mattress as though it would keep him from sinking into the earth. How, David? How did you get HIV? She asked again, her voice rising. You've been sleeping out, haven't you? You've brought this shame into our home, into me. He looked up slowly, the lines on his face deeper than they had ever been. I don't know, he whispered. I swear to you, Lisa, I don't know how. I have never cheated on you. Lisa laughed bitterly. So it just flew into your blood, like dust in the Hamatan wind. There was a silence heavy enough to crush a mountain. It hung between them like an invisible wall, tall and solid. The warmth that once filled the room was long gone. The walls, which once echoed laughter and quiet promises, now absorbed only silence and anger. David had gone for a routine medical checkup a few days earlier. He'd felt a little off, just fatigue and headaches, nothing serious. But when the nurse handed him his results, her expression told him something was wrong before she even spoke. You tested positive for HIV, she said gently. He'd sat there numb, trying to absorb the weight of the words. She recommended further confirmatory tests, but David, overwhelmed and ashamed, left the clinic without scheduling the next appointment. When he came home, he couldn't sleep. For 2 nights, he lay beside Lisa, staring at the ceiling, trying to imagine how to tell her. He had been there for her during her hardest time. During the COVID-19 outbreak, Lisa had been terribly sick. Everyone stayed away, but he stayed. He cooked, he cleaned, he prayed, and he held her hand when even her own family was too afraid to come close. Now, when it was his turn to be weak, the woman he loved looked at him like a stranger. You need to go again. Do the test again, she snapped. Maybe it's wrong. Maybe it's not what it says. I can't, he muttered. Why? Are you scared of the truth or scared that you lose your excuse? She hissed. From that day, the house began to change. Lisa stopped cooking his meals. He came home to cold silence and untouched pots. She no longer set the table for 2. Even his favorite dishes disappeared from the kitchen, replaced with nothing. When he tried to prepare food for himself, she'd mutter under her breath, loud enough for him to hear. Now you're good at something. They stopped talking unless absolutely necessary. The bed they once shared now felt like a boundary line between 2 continents. One night, David reached for her hand. Lisa pulled away and got out of bed. Don't touch me, she said. Not until you fix this. She began sleeping in the guest room. When they crossed paths in the hallway, she averted her gaze or gave him cold, biting looks. One evening, as he tried to explain himself, she interrupted with a scoff. Save your lies for someone who believes in fairy tales. Another time, when he coughed lightly while sitting in the living room, Lisa snapped. Please don't infect the whole house. If you want to die, do it quietly. David stared at the ceiling again that night, but it felt heavier than ever. She began insulting him openly. A man who can't protect himself is no man at all, she told her sister over the phone while David was within earshot. He's weak and careless. What kind of husband brings home disease instead of peace? She avoided his presence like a shadow. She would spray disinfectant after he used the toilet, wipe door handles after he touched them, and move to a different couch whenever he sat near. At dinner, she ate alone, leaving him to figure out if anything was in the pot. Lisa also decided to go for her own test, filled with dread and anxiety. The waiting period was excruciating. She prayed quietly every night despite her anger. When her results came out, the doctor smiled gently. You're negative, Mrs. Lisa. You do not have HIV. She let out a long sigh, part relief, part frustration. Her hands trembled as she received the test result. Thank God, she whispered. But instead of softening toward David, her bitterness grew. So I'm clean and you're not. I gave you everything and this is what you returned to me. Weeks passed and the distance between them widened. They lived under the same roof, but their lives moved separately like strangers passing on the road. David kept to himself, too ashamed to confide in anyone. He had once been a man of pride and joy, but now his shoulder slouched with sorrow. Then one evening, Lisa came into the room with a folded piece of paper. This is the divorce petition, she said. I can't keep doing this. I don't know who you are anymore. David looked at her as if he hadn't heard right. Divorce? Lisa, please. Don't beg, she cut in. Just sign. She turned and left the room before he could respond. The door closed behind her, soft but final. The next day, Lisa's younger sister, Angela, came over with her husband, Marcus. They had heard whispers of tension, but not the full story. That afternoon, Marcus took David for a walk while Angela sat with Lisa in the kitchen. You're really going to leave him? Angela asked gently. He brought HIV into this house, Angela. Lisa snapped. Did you see him with another woman? Did you do any tests yourself? Angela pressed. Lisa was quiet. When you were sick, who stayed by your side? Angela asked. Tears welled up in Lisa's eyes. David, he was there every day. Then why do you doubt him now? If you could trust him with your life, why not with your heart? In the other room, Marcus told David, you have to take the test again, not for her, for you. The truth must be clear. That night, David lay awake and made his decision. He would return to the clinic. 2 days later, he went alone. The waiting was unbearable. He prayed quietly in the lobby. When the doctor returned with his file, her face was unreadable. Mr. David, we ran the confirmatory test twice. You're negative. The first test was a false positive. You do not have HIV. He sat there frozen. Are you sure? Yes. The doctor smiled. You're okay. Tears rolled down David's cheeks as relief poured over him like rain on dry earth. When he got home, Lisa was sitting on the veranda, lost in thought. Lisa, he called. She looked up. I went back. I took the test again. It was wrong. I'm negative. She stood stunned, her lips parted in disbelief. Are you serious? He handed her the paper and she read it silently, then read it again. Slowly, her knees buckled and she sank into the chair behind her. Tears flowed freely from her eyes. I'm so sorry, she whispered. David knelt in front of her and held her hands. We let fear tear us apart. He said, but I still love you. I never stopped. They embraced not as a couple who had simply resolved a misunderstanding, but as two people who had journeyed through fire and chosen to stay. Weeks later, their home came alive again. Laughter returned to the halls. One Saturday evening, under a canopy of stars, they renewed their vows in a small backyard ceremony. Angela and Marco stood as witnesses, and neighbors came with drums and flowers. David and Lisa stood beneath the lanterns, holding hands, eyes locked. We have known sickness and sorrow, Lisa said. We have faced fear, but today I choose you again. And I choose you, David replied, in confusion, in clarity, in all seasons. As the drums played and the guests clapped, their love stood not as something perfect, but as something true, tested, shaken, and still standing. And so, in the heart of a home that once knew silence, love spoke again, and this time it roared.